Dimp Digital presents Idle Game Chat.
Cool.
Dave the Diver is a casual, single-player adventure RPG featuring deep sea exploration and fishing during the day, and a sushi management sim at night. Join Dave and his quirky friends as they seek to uncover the secrets of the mysterious blue hole. And that's all it's got on the PlayStation Store. It don't give you a lot. But there's more on the Steam store if you want to get a bit of an extra view of it. I'll let you decide if you need any more guidance.
From what I've gleaned from the trailer, that seems to sum it up reasonably well. At least that makes more sense what the fucking sushi sim's all about, because I was watching the trailer and I was like, yeah, okay, Dave the Diver, there's diving going on, there's exploration, all the sort of stuff that I'd expect, and then randomly for some reason you're getting coaxed into being a sushi bar manager. I was a bit like, right, why you got to run that? Why is exploring not enough? No, you've got to be a restaurant manager. You've got to be Gordon Ramsay and Steve Irwin all at once, apparently. So that's what we're dealing with by the looks of it. And
there are stingrays to be wary of, so that is part of the game. They can sting you. They can actually kill you. So as we learned in real life, that can happen, but they can really hurt you in this if you're not careful. So you just got to keep your wits about you when those stingrays are about.
Yeah, good life advice that plays through, right? Where do we start with this? What's the genesis? Has this been on the backlog, or is it something you've picked up because it's on sale, or where are we at with this?
So it was earmarked last year, so 2023. I think it only came out to PC and Switch initially.
Bit of fanfare to it, I remember.
Yeah, it was. There was quite a bit of fanfare. Pretty good score on the old OpenCritic, if I remember correctly. I will pull it up in just a moment. And I was like, oh, that looks like it's good. I don't want to play it on the Switch, so that was immediately written off. Yeah, 90 on OpenCritic, 78 reviews, so no slouch. I don't want to play it on that Switch for obvious reasons. Although, actually, it makes quite a good handheld game, considering it's just a 2D plane and whatnot. But I don't want to be dealing with that.
It's a last resort, isn't it, for a lot of things?
Yeah, and then the PC, I was like, well, maybe I'll get it on that, and then kind of just forgot about it. Then it released for consoles, I think this year, 2024, and it appeared on that PlayStation Plus extra tier, which I've got, which is the middle tier of the sort of Game Pass equivalent. So I was like, well, I'll add that to the list. There's like something to do later on. And then as I was surging through these sort of palate cleanser type games, or smaller games, or not big AAA, big budget titles, this came along. I'd already done Dredge, which I've previously spoken about with Mr. Adcock. And this was sort of the follow-on. It was like, that's the next one in line of these sort of fishing-related ones. And there's a little bit of crossover. They actually released a bit of DLC for both the games, referencing each of the games later on.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that's quite good. It's quite well implemented in Dave the Diver, not so much so in Dredge. So I was like, yeah, well, I'll get this one done, and then maybe I'll revert back to sort of a bigger game after this. So I've sort of gone on this tear of smaller titles. And Dave the Diver was the last on the list.
Yeah, there's been a fair few of them. So that's the genesis. You ended up playing this on PlayStation then?
Yeah. And I said, it was on that PlayStation Plus tier. I was like, you basically get a year usually to play it. So I was like, well, let's just get these done early. If you did want to buy it, it was sitting there at sort of like $15.99, I think. So it's not a particularly big investment. It's always on sale whenever they run sales. So again, you can probably get it for about a tenner if you bide your time. But it was just there, and I thought there's no outlay needed. They've just released, not just, but they've released the Godzilla DLC, which is a free DLC pack as well. So I was like, well, I'm going to benefit from whatever that ends up being, and then we'll just get started with this and see what it's like.
Right, okay. Who's the developer for this? Do you know? Really put you on the spot.
Mint Rocket.
I mean, I'm going to assume they've done fuck all before this.
Nothing
Noteworthy.
towards this sort of
Yeah.
like critical acclaim.
Put my neck
So,
on the line for that.
No, yeah, that's exactly right. No, I'd never played in their previous titles. Never really heard of them previously either. So, yeah, they were just sort of lurking there. I think they're South Korean, which you wouldn't necessarily think when you play the game. It's very Americanized in terms of like the characters and name Dave the Diver, for example.
Yeah.
But yeah, they've done a good job here generally, and their previous kind of games, not really familiar with at all, to be honest. They've helped out on loads of stuff. If you look in their Wikipedia, loads of toss. They're a publisher as well, so they've been stinging around publishing little titles and whatnot, and like mobile stuff, like FIFA Mobile. I think they helped publish many years ago. It's like one of those sort of, they seem to just get around doing loads of random stuff, and then here they've kind of took it on and developed their own game, developed and published it, and hit a pretty high success rate, I'd say, at least critically, from other people, and sales wise it seemed to take off as well.
It's done well, that's fair to say.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk to a bit and expand on what the game is? So you've alluded to exploration, undersea, and then sushi bar, but do you want to add some flesh to that?
Self-explanatory, isn't it?
Well, it is.
No, it's split in two. So yeah, it's 2D.
It's like day-night time, so it clicks over to say like 5 o'clock, and then you get it's a sushi bar style thing.
So it's not choice. Yeah, it's not real time or like a ongoing clock like Grand Theft Auto or something like that, or other open world games. Again, it's like situational based. So when you go into the water and come out, a chunk of the day passes, and you go in again, another chunk of the day passes, and then when you go to the sushi bar, the day ends. So it's kind of set like that. So you can dive 3 times. So you can do 2 in the day, like 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, and then you can do 1 in the evening. But what that'll do is that'll take a bit, I think it's a third off of the time that you'd get to run the sushi bar. So the sushi bar is how you make your money, which I'll get into. So the longer that's open, the more customers you'll get in, the more money you'll make. So sometimes you'll be like, oh, do I farm a bit more to get this fish or specific ingredient, or do I just run the sushi bar? Some fish are only available at night, so they're nocturnal. So again, if you need a specific type of fish, then you need to be doing that. But you will get the opportunity to run the bar. It'll just be a bit shorter, or the sushi restaurant, I should say, it'll be a shorter time period. So rather than it running for a couple of minutes, like in real time when you're playing it might run for 1 minute 20 or something like that. So it's split in that way, and you've got no real time pressure once you're in the sea, other than your oxygen, which you have to manage. And again, we can delve into the intricacies of that. But you're free to take as long as you want once you're down there, as long as you can survive and don't end up dying. So those are the 2 main things. There are other elements that come along a bit later, such as like crop farming and fish farming, which aren't as hands-on. They're more of a passive thing to reduce the amount of having to get your own fish each time. Like, it gives you a bit of a supply, so you don't. I think later on in the game they realise you don't want to be just going down there getting the dregs still. Like, that will be done for you. So yeah, that's the added bits that sort of come along sort of middle of the game to give people a chance to not be under pressure so much, just to get a shitload of fish for the night's sort of restaurant being open.
Yeah, because I did see there was this kind of like Stardew Valley-esque farming piece that went with it. I was like, why is that? It's so weird. Like, some of these games where you look at them and you go, Dave the Diver, undersea exploration, doing all that sort of stuff. And then randomly, as I said at the start, you're running a sushi bar and you've got Stardew Valley in there as well. It's like a really weird concoction of different mini games. Obviously, they're not going to be to the same degree, right? Like, they're going to be a lot more basic, but it's still surprising to see stuff like that lurking, I think, in these sort of games.
Yeah, it definitely when you first boot it up and play it for the first couple of hours, you're kind of like, oh, right, I understand this will be it, basically. But it does, over time, up until pretty late in the game, start unlocking new bits and pieces. They're not overly exciting, but it just kind of adds new wrinkles throughout the game. That's sort of a common theme, that you'll get a new type of weapon. You might get something to assist you down in the water and things like that. And you're like, okay, this now makes sense. And there's objects and things under the sea that you look at and you can tell they're interactable because they've got bubbles coming out of them, but you ain't got any tool to get at them. And then as time goes on, you unlock the ability to do that. So it's got that kind of loop that I think people enjoy and probably can get a little bit addicted to, all this resource gathering and whatnot, and then running the restaurant itself. But it does have like a main sort of campaign story and quest to run through as well. So it's not just solely a sim of mindlessly getting fish and selling them. That's the core of what you're doing. But there's also a main quest and other quests that you can partake in as you go through.
Sure, there was another game that come out last year that was literally simming, and I think I might have even started playing it for a bit. I can't remember what it was called, but that was kind of like trying to revive a fishing village. There seems to be this sort of like fishing related
Dredge,
revival.
was it?
No, I don't think so.
You control the boat and go out, and then
I'm sure it was called something else.
Yeah,
because you start off on land.
Oh, okay.
Right. Oh, that's really going to bug me. But I'm pretty sure that it might have been last year. It might have been the year before. I'd need to go. I'm going to have to go away after this and double check it. But there does appear to have been a sort of revival of this sort of stuff. And it is. Yeah. The thing is, fishing in real life, right, isn't one of my passions. But a lot of people like it because it's a long day of doing something with very little going on, right? So to then take a game and to try and apply fishing, like you don't want to be sitting there for 2 hours with nothing going on. You'll go, what's this? So to find a balance between something that's fun to do and something that's also kind of like relaxing and ticks the box of fishing, I think it's always a bit of a delicate balance. Obviously, deep sea diving's different. It looks like there's an element of fighting in this, or at least battling and killing stuff and doing all that kind. So they had, I suppose, there's an element of peril.
Yeah, I mean, there's active. It's active fishing, so it's not cast your rod out and put feet up. It's you're down there, and the way to get them is using weapons or your harpoon to engage with the fish and pull them in and grab them, basically. So. Yeah. There's no real passive kind of element to the fishing. It's not, cast out a rod and come back. It's swim around, you see a fish, okay, aim the harpoon, fire that, hit them, pull them in if they're damaged enough. There are aggressive fish and sharks in the water that will attack you, so you have a limited amount of oxygen that you go down, and you can upgrade all this stuff as well. I mean, there's a whole upgrade path for your suit, your weapons, and crafting, and all that's there as well. But the oxygen tank you go down with, it might say like this day you start on 100, you move around a bit, it goes down to 98, 97 as you're moving. If you kind of dash and swim fast, it goes down a bit quicker, and then if a enemy or a hostile fish or whatever creature down there hits you, you'll lose a chunk of that oxygen.
That's like a life bar.
It's
basically.
Life and sort of a soft timer as well. And you whilst you're down there, there's plenty of like refills. You can pick up little single use oxygen sort of dispensers, and also there is like these big like cargo type dispensers down there that you can use. They're one and done, but there's plenty of them scattered around the level itself. So that's how the kind of life element works. So there is an element of peril, because if you die down there, it's contextualized. So Dave doesn't die, he gets lifted out. So the people that are up there go, oh, and pull him out. But all the stuff that you've collected, you lose, other than one item. You can choose one item to take back of you. Oh. And that's it. So a couple of times it's one of those things where you're like, do I push the boat out? You've got a limited carrying capacity as well to start with, and that's throughout. You can upgrade that to have more, but it fills up quicker than you always think it's going to. And then you're like, do I risk getting more fish and then moving slower, which means if I bump into a shark, I'm going to be in real trouble trying to deal with this, or do I just get out and go now, or do you sort of risk it? I've got 30 oxygen, how long time? Like, there's all these different little mini games you'll play with yourself, thinking, how far do I push the boat out in what I can bring back? Because I could lose it all if I get too cocky. Or if you go back a bit early, you think, I could have extracted another 10 fish out of that. So it's a nice little loop anyway once you're down there.
So is it the more you're carrying, the slower you move then?
So you'll move the normal speed up until you hit your carrying capacity.
Right.
There's like a soft level which makes you go slower. You can still move, and you can still pick up things. And eventually you'll hit your hard limit, which you'll still go slower, but you can't pick any more up.
Right.
So it's kind of giving you the option to test the boundaries because you can still move around. And you think, well, shall I just fill it up to the absolute max? And that's what I did a couple of times.
But there's some bullshit algorithm that it knows when you fill it up to the max, and it'll chuck out some
Tiger
bullshit.
shark will be lurking because the way to exit the water is, one, you can swim to the surface, so you can just go up there. But they cleverly scatter around these like what they call escape pods. So if you go up to this escape pod, hold square, it'll come down and collect you and take all your shit up. But it's not an instant thing, so it takes about 5 seconds. So usually I notice sometimes there's a shark lurking around near those, so you need to either deal with it or get lucky that it's on the other side of like that little mini area.
Yeah.
You get time to sort of get yourself out of there. A couple of times it didn't. I'd like see it. I got up and then this fucking shark come near me, and because I was so slow, it was hard or near impossible to avoid it, and then I died, which left me raging. But my own fault. Didn't need all that other extra shit. Got an overabundance of sushi back at the restaurant, but just like to min-max where I can.
So is the idea that it's an exploration game and the sushi is just a dynamic to give purpose to it? Or is it the other way around? Like it's a sushi game that you're collecting fish for? Like how does it feel? Or is it just balanced perfectly?
I don't know if it's balanced purposely, but they're both needed. So you kind of, you need to continue with the game. You need to explore because you find new areas, you go deeper, you find extra areas. That's how the story moves on. And the story beats is what unlocks new items and other things for you to use. So it'll make your fish hunting journey easier. I mean, you can, pull in bigger fish or sharks or other creatures. And then the restaurant obviously needs the fish to sell to the customers, so you need to be doing the exploring and the gathering, but that's where you get paid. So the gold or the currency that you get is only ever given out usually within the restaurant. There's a couple of side quests that will give you stuff for completing it, but the main bulk, 95% of your income will come from running that sushi restaurant, customers coming in, buying your sushi, and then you use that money to then upgrade your suit, which will allow you to swim for longer, or there's like a depth cap as well, so you can only go so deep to start with. And if you want to go further, you've got to upgrade your suit, but you need money to do that. You get the money from the sushi restaurant, which is fed by the exploring and the farming of the fish. So it's nicely linked. Everything's got a purpose to it, which I like. There's no sort of in the major parts, I'll say, because there are like little mini games and whatnot that are lurking, which are kind of throwaway, but those two aspects are nicely balanced. I think that the fun part is definitely being in the water and roaring around in there. The sushi part is fine. Like it's sort of people come in, they make an order, your chef makes it, you grab the plate, you walk over and serve it to them. They might want a drink, so there's like a little mini game to pour a pint that you don't want to get all that froth that they seem to struggle down these local pubs here. They keep chucking all that froth on top, claiming barrels need cleaning and whatnot. But and then you can eventually hire like staff to help out with that side, so you're not running around like a blue ass fly. They will serve, they will pour drinks. You can perhaps keep the wasabi topped up or something like that. So there's more depth than what you'd probably think just looking at the trailers and reading about it. Like you start to, it clearly doesn't want you to be stressing around that sushi part too much, which means you can hire people to help in the serving in the restaurant, and you can hire people to send out to get ingredients like salt and whatever else you need for other sort of menu items.
Yeah, so that was the one thing that I thought does the change of pace become almost the primary goal? Because if you're trying to make money, like does it become a money making operation, all that kind of stuff? But I suppose, as you say, it kind of balances itself out in the end. It's all,
I mean, if you spend time making sure you got high priced items on your restaurant, you can choose the meals that you're going to put on the menu, and you can sort them by kind of like taste, which normally increases your popularity, or you can sort it by price, which means more income. There's definitely times where I was like, look, I want to upgrade my harpoon, which is quite expensive, so I did go out and fish because it's money in the bank. It'll get used. The stuff that you collect doesn't go off, so you haven't got to use it in the restaurant within a certain amount of days. I think that'll be just an extra bit of complexity that would ruin the fun of it.
Yeah,
I've got this fucking fish and it rots in 3 days, so we've got to put it on the menu, and it's like, well, no. So it'll all just sit there indefinitely if you don't use it.
yeah.
But I was focusing on not diving at night because I wanted to get the maximum time to get the cash in, and then I'd eventually get enough to upgrade my suit or the harpoon in this instance. So you kind of set like mini targets for yourself. Like I said, sometimes you need to go deeper and the suit won't let you go deep, so you need to focus on upgrading that. So you need to focus on getting some cash in the door. But naturally, if you just play the game as intended, it'll balance itself out over time. There's not too many big spikes where you need to suddenly rush to get gold or cash. Although I did probably, in the early stage, not over level, but I did focus on upgrading for a good couple of hours, like grinding out a couple of levels of upgrade, which I think sped up some of the progress in the game later on, because I think it was only maybe one other time where I hit like a depth restriction. I was like, oh, I haven't done that in ages, so these other places I've been visiting, I probably was just a little bit ahead of the game. But the game gives you the freedom to do it. It's not like they're hidden behind story milestones. You can upgrade your suits and your weapons whenever you want, so it's handy.
I'm going to need it. My thought is always, this isn't ever going to be unnecessary to do it. So
it's not there for the fun of it.
Yeah, might as well just get through that as quickly as I can, and then I don't have to stress about upgrades as much. I can think about all the other shit that's going to come my way rather than stressing about, I need this, that, or the other, or I've run out of space, or I'm now not doing enough damage, and all that kind of shit just doesn't become an issue. So my default approach for video games really is, if there's a progression arch there of different things I want to use, I'll focus or find a way to focus on getting them upgraded as quick as I can so that I don't have to stress about it later.
Yeah, always get ahead of the game, upgrade that health so it's more than what you need. Because there's bosses and stuff that appear, so they're obviously a bit more challenging because they're direct conflicts. But yeah, I mean, it gives you the freedom to do all that. So it's a nice balance, I think, between the two. They feed each other, and there's a reason why both exist. So that's always good.
So, are there any specific things you want to call out in this game that you really enjoyed?
I think just the idea of the game is quite good, and they execute well on all of it. Like, it's the game and the structure and the going from the water to the restaurant's a nice loop. It does have that addicting nature of, I just want to keep going. I'll do one more dive, or I'll do this, I'll do that, or maybe I'll explore that cave. As all that those sort of elements to it. I think just so many times you sort of play a game and the core game is a good idea, but it doesn't really come together. They might have several elements, and sort of half of the games, like, you think, I don't even need that to it. Like Assassin's Creed's always, there's so much to it. You think, well, you could have cut that in half, and it wouldn't be needed. All those activities. I don't need to be drinking grog or whatever it is. I don't know, what's that doing? Whereas this everything there has a purpose. Like I said, the farming helps out later on because it relies less on you having to go after sort of lower value bits and pieces. You can set up the fish farm in such a way that if you get 2 of each fish, they will start to procreate. So again, that really helps, because once you've got 2 of each fish in there, you've essentially got a streamlined pipeline, so you haven't got to worry too much about...
The birds and the bees will sort you out.
Yeah, exactly. You haven't got to be worrying about collecting fish at a certain point, although you still can, because there's still high value stuff to be got at. And then you might focus on, I want to unlock weapons or whatnot. So you go off and find the weapon caches and you pick them up, and if you pick the same weapon up 3 times that you've not got, you unlock a blueprint to craft it. And it's got all these trimmings, and they're all just nicely, snugly put together. I think that's, in a game that's mostly about gameplay, and it says it's relaxing. I'm not sure if like some of those bosses, you're like, it's not as easy as it should be. They're not relaxing bosses. They're not Dark Souls or Elden Ring or anything like that. You ain't got to worry about that, but they will kill you if you're sloppy or you're not doing what it needs you to do. But generally, the fact that they've built all these mechanics and they all work together nicely and there's a purpose to them, I think it's just good. It's something to call out, because too many times you would have seen half of this game not worth bothering with, and you just focus on going under the water. But it's nice to have all these different bits and pieces running in one go and having it come together nicely in an overall package. I like all the side stuff as well. There's like random instances where like a VIP will come along to the restaurant and say, I want this very specific dish. So then you'll have to go out and find a specific fish, ingredients, etc. It's never really hard. It's never like impossible to find. And then they come back in 3 days and you serve them the dish and you get like a bonus. You get like extra cash that day. You unlock new menu items. You unlock X, Y, and Z. And then there's other like exploration-based quests under the water, picking up enough shells of a certain colour for research. That's all nice as well, because they give you sort of passive rewards as you go on. You get like unlock little charms that increase your dash speed and things like that you can put on. So I'm just impressed with the amount of elements that are in it that are useful and enjoyable to do. So making sure those VIPs are happy was sort of when they came along, I'd be like, right, that's now the focus for the next 3 days. Get prepared for that. So it gave you sort of a nice little side hustle to be getting on with if you thought the main sort of story was a bit slow, or you was perhaps waiting for something in real game time to tick over. Like sometimes they'll say, come back in a couple of days. So you've got 2 days to kill. That was a nice little distraction. And then the other sort of similar thing I liked is that there'll be every week, maybe 2 weeks, there'll be a party that will be coming in 2 or 3 days, and they're after a very specific type of meal. So one of them's tuna. So what you do is you go out for those 2 or 3 days, you just farm as much tuna as you can, and then when the party comes in, all they order is tuna-based dishes. So you put all those in the menu, and you make an absolute fortune, relatively speaking. So yeah, it's all good stuff. Snugly put together and just works as a game. Just to sit down, you think, what do I do today? I'll do the main quest. Okay, I'll focus on that for a bit. And you're like, I'm a bit bored of that. I've got this VIP coming in. Let's make sure he's going to be satisfied. There's always something to be getting on with, and even once the game ends, stuff that you haven't finished, you can go back and mop up if you choose to.
Gotcha. So, what about things that perhaps you didn't like so much?
There is a bit of sloppiness.
Negatives.
There's a bit of sloppiness. Like button prompts. Actually, I shouldn't actually. I will pause. I'll tell you what that I had issues with some of the button prompts, okay?
Yeah.
But what I discovered late in the game is that it was my controller.
User error.
My first PlayStation controller I had with this console, what I noticed was when I stopped moving the analog stick, it flicks left very slightly. And I only picked this up when I was doing the farming part of the game, because it's very like you walk around and it gives you this little square to show where you're going to throw the seeds. And every time I'd stop, it'd flick to the left. And I thought, what a shit design. Like, why is it? So then I'd start walking around that way. I'd walk from right to left, thinking it was the game that wanted me to do it that way. And then on a whim, I was like, actually, let me try my second controller. And of course, that disappeared, that entire problem. It was all along, it was my controller playing up. So actually, the button prompts that I was struggling with early in the game was probably because when I went to press it, it would be flicking the left analog stick and resetting it sometimes.
Right, gotcha.
So actually, that wasn't the game's fault. So that should be scrubbed off. I did get soft locked though behind a rock. Like I interacted with a rock, and then I couldn't get back from it. And it was part of like a quest, like to take a picture. There's like photo opportunities that you can do down there. I thought, that's annoying. Anyway, I reset and did it again, and then I did the same thing again. It got stuck. So something with that quest, basically, you do go behind the rock at some point, but it was opening the option too early, and then I was getting stuck behind it. I was just thinking, oh, the prompt come up, so that must be where I've got to go. So that happened twice in a row. It's clearly a bug, and given the game's been out, well, it's been out over a year generally, but in enough time to sort that sort of stuff out, it's a little bit slop. One Ronnieism that annoyed me, and this is again, no one else will have an issue with this, but I did.
Have a separate category. We should have things you like, things you don't like, and then Ronnieisms.
Yeah. So when you save the game and exit, it boots the game back up, and you're always on the boat. Now, when you finish a day, it's got a real day. It's got a real life calendar, so it will tick over like October the 1st to October the 2nd. It'll load up and go and show you that. So if you save the game when you are in the morning, like you exit and come back into it, it will do that same little transition, like day to night or night to day. Sorry, it will tick over, which is fine. Trouble is, sometimes when you go out in the morning when the game starts, people come up to you and start talking to you. They come up, they drive on their boats, and they're like, "Oh, can you get this picture for me?" Or, we want to move on to the main quest, do this and that. I save and exit after that point. I come back, it does the night to day tick over, but those people don't talk to me. So when they talk to me, it's been evaporated. Isn't it? Because it's ticked over from night to day. They've been reset in reality.
So what? You go and speak to them, and they give
speak
you
to me. They come to me on the boat. Yeah.
Yeah. So you go, yep, I'll do it. Yeah. And then you say you don't do the activity. It's there in the back pocket.
Yep.
And then you close it and come back. They're gone.
No, the quest is there, but it ticks over from night to day. As though it's starting a fresh day, but the quest is already there.
So it's basically right. Gotcha. So what it's doing is it's like erased whatever's happened, and just it's like a fresh day.
Yes,
but it's still saying you've got the quest, so you've done it.
Yeah, it retains that I've spoken to that person.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
So what I had to do to counteract that was always save in the afternoon session, so that I didn't have that little tick over. Because then when you speak to someone, they go away and you save it and come back. You're just on the boat. There's no night to day transition.
So it was banned, was it? That basically in any transition time, so you had to save it in the middle every time, so there was no transition either way.
Yeah, I think in night you can do it. So I could save in the evening as well, and that was acceptable because there was no day being ticked over.
Banned.
But yeah, that is a massive Ronnieism, but it annoyed me. And then another time, again, this is me fucking about with things like that. I did lose some progress because I can't remember what I did now. I was going in and out of it because of a reason like that. And then it auto saved over my latest save, and I lost about 20 minutes. It wasn't a lot. And I was like, that was my fault, but be careful. Just you can do manual saving. So it gives you 3 auto save slots, which are pretty generous. And it will checkpoint in bosses. So once you get to a boss, so if you've got a shitload of stuff with you, if you die during the boss, you won't lose all that and have to go back. It'll just say restart. Or if you actually are really underpowered and you think, I can't do this, you can go back to the boat and sacrifice that stuff. But more often than not, you can get through it if you just learn the patterns. And then this might shock you. And this is, I think it's, well, look, I played for 30 hours. So we're going to have a spirit fair on our hands where really looking at it, you think that's probably 20 tops. And they've added another third on it. And to be honest, throughout the game, I wasn't not enjoying it really. But I did start to notice the main quest starting to do some, what I would call padding. Like just some not nonsensical, but stuff like, oh, this is like just a side distraction to do this for a day or two. And I was a bit like, yeah, I want to get on with this, but it clearly was trying to. You could just see they were trying to expand the length of the game artificially, and it's wasn't loads of times, but there were definitely a handful of times where I was like, yeah, this feels like when it come back in 2 days. I'm like, what am I supposed to do in 2? Like, I've done most of it all, and towards the back end of this, like I feel like I'm getting towards where I need to be, and then you're asking me to wait around for 2 in-game days. You can skip time, so you can just skip through the diving sessions. I think you can even skip through the restaurant sessions, but I was like, well, am I leaving profit on the table? Like,
Bonnie wouldn't let you skip that.
Well,
just because he got bored, would he? He'd be like, right, well, 2 days I can do that. I was just
worried that in case I would suddenly need, instead of 3,000 fish sitting in the storage, I needed 4,000 for some reason, even though you use less than 20 per restaurant trip. Like, it's one of those things where you could easily just skip through and done it quicker, but I didn't like the idea of that in case I missed a chance at something.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there is a bit of padding towards it. You could probably do it quicker because I did do quite a lot of the side stuff. But yeah, that definitely is a bit of a weakness. And then I think what compounds that weakness is that the overall main story and quest isn't that great. Like, it's okay. It's very serviceable. It's very light-hearted and funny. There are some interesting characters, but it's not really top draw. And I don't know if I expect top draw, but sometimes when you think, why am I doing this? I'm very proficient at the sim part of it. When it comes down to the story part, it's probably, for me, lacking just a little bit. So those are some of the criticisms that I've pulled out of my arse.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to call out for this game?
No, I do just like the risk and reward that it sets up. And I spoke about this earlier, but I'll just repeat it because I think this is something that you wouldn't think of with the game. You think it's, it is what it is. But, going down, you think, what item do I take with me? You can choose like a weapon to go with. So you could choose a sleeping dart, for example, which puts the fish to sleep. And then when you harvest them, they're of a higher quality and it might yield an egg to put in your fish farm. Or you can just butcher them with the fucking harpoon, you'll get a lower quality. Or you can shoot them with guns and things you can get down there. So I like that aspect of it. But really, like, pushing the boundary of how long to stay down there for, how much stuff to collect for coming up. There's this nice little to-in and fro-in that people, I think, will have when they play the game. Because you'll start to get cocky, thinking, well, I haven't been touched in hours here, so I'll be fine. Then eventually you'll get your fingers burnt. And although it's annoying, I was like, I quite like that element to it because gets the blood pumping just a bit. You think, I've got all this high value shit on me. Now I need to get out of here. Where was the last escape pod that I saw? I can't remember.
So it's the same, like with anything that requires extraction. Like when we used to play the Division and stuff. Like as soon as you got something that you want or that's worth something, the stakes are automatically increased, and it adds that element of you're a bit more careful. You do things slightly differently. You're a bit less blasé around your play style and stuff. So yeah, it does add an interesting element, I think, always.
Yeah, but other than that, like I said, there's a ton of like mini games that are contextualized during missions, or there's there's a phone app that you can do, and it's got actual games in there that you can play, which they're a waste of time really. But there's a lot of bits here that you think, well, I'm not really sure why it's there, but it's kind of nice that it is there. It sort of fleshes out the world and whatnot. But yeah, a few little mini games which are good fun. Like there's one where you use a gas like underwater cutter to cut like a hole in a door, so you have to like hold it within the right area and it's moving, and there's a few different plays on that, so it's got a bit more about it than just sort of swimming around and firing your gun or harpoon at fish. I'm not sure whether they're trying to say anything of this game. You know how sometimes that you sort of play these games and then, or you watch a film or something and then you realise there's like a message, like an anti-fishery message. Like, I didn't enjoy killing these fish after a certain amount of time. Just like the brutality of firing a harpoon in them, watching them sort of struggle and then just getting them. And I was like, oh, I don't know about this. I'm not sure whether this is intentional, like to make you think like that, or
what, intentionally uncomfortable?
Maybe, but they don't really touch upon it really in the game. That's the thing. I thought there would be some sort of narrative beat about, should we really be doing this? It's kind of like, no, they're quite blasé about it. There's no, like the fish farms, for example, which I know are inherently like awful conditions for fish. Like they just get dumped and like you just using this thing as a resource tool, and they're like, I thought there might be like a sinister edge to it, but no. I think over time I was a bit like, I don't like this. It's like when Adkins posts his photos of getting those dogfish out and they're killing them. I'm like, I don't be liking that.
Yeah, so it's just. It just is what it is. There's no activism essentially in there around it. But I think we're so used to that happening now in games where there is always an element of activism, I think, included, or they're making a point out of what they're doing to raise awareness, or you go, well, yeah. I mean, I quite like the idea that it's not activism. It is what it is. Yeah. Yeah. But I get what you mean. You do, like, naturally feel uncomfortable sometimes. Like, I always look at these hunting games and I'm like, doesn't appeal. I don't
No.
think there's anything about me that would feel comfortable around simulating shooting a deer or something like that. Like, it's just not, just wouldn't be for me.
No, but then we'll happily order that fucking triple Big Mac when it comes in. They've had a bolt put in their head.
And I do enjoy a bit of venison as well, is the cruel irony of it.
Yeah.
But I know what you mean. Yeah. So nothing else then you want to call out? Is there a cool little theme tune? I always like the idea that there's some sort of
The soundtrack's nice. Yeah, it's a good theme tune. There's a lot of, and each like underwater zone has its own theme tune. The nocturnal side of things has its own theme tune.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's nice. Oh, the Godzilla DLC is nicely integrated. That's a nice little side excursion. I mean, it's completely ridiculous, but the game itself's quite ridiculous. It's quite fantastical in many ways. Some of the things you see down there, and that's a nice, fun little integration. Like, and it's free. Like, it's not paid for. Although I think you can, if you've got to claim it before December. I think there's a licensing issue. I don't know if they're going to renew that, but it will. At the moment, it's planned to go away at some point later on this year. So if you've got it and not done it, play it. But that like unlocks and just. Obviously, I played it from the beginning, and it just seamlessly sort of appeared at some point and was like a big side quest to go on. Well, I think if you finish the game, it'll just trigger the events that start that. But it's nicely put in, and the Dredge crossover is really cool as well. Having played Dredge, I was like, this is a really nice nod to them. Like, it's a cool way of sort of bringing elements of that game into Dave the Diver without it spoiling the whole Dave the Diver vibes. It has got its own vibe. And the Godzilla thing as well fits in really nicely. And Godzilla, I need to watch that new Godzilla one, the old subtitled one. It's meant to be pretty good. So this might give me
lost interested in Godzilla years ago.
Well, they had that awful film, didn't they, with that bloke from Beulah or whatever it is, Beulah's Day Off, like that dreadful shitter. Godzilla was like a lizard in that, whereas if you traditional Godzilla, the ones they've done recently, he obviously rocks up on 2 feet and causes problems. Had that one with the fella out of Breaking Bad, didn't they?
Oh,
what's his bloody name?
I know you mean.
Malcolm in the Middle's dad.
Yeah. Why can't I think of his name?
I can't.
Oh, God.
I'll tell you what, 8 years ago, I would have known it off the top of my head, but he's sort of
Bryan
not irrelevant.
Cranston.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Oh,
But yeah, Godzilla. When they first saw them doing Godzilla, I was like, what? That won't fit. But the way the game is, it's like, oh, that absolutely does fit. It's actually pretty cool. So
yeah,
I like that, and I like the Dredge stuff. And again, these are freebies. So if you've got the game, just claim them. And even if you're playing on a subscription service like me, again, you can just claim them, and it'll be there for you. But yeah, overall, pretty pleased with this endeavour.
In which case, this brings us to the gaming gallery element.
Yeah.
So, as we've said before, it all goes in. We always enter through the door.
Wow.
Feels like the way this one's going is
There's
definitely
a car
going to
park
get.
with a self-storage.
It ain't going in there. I'm still going to fight you about the bin that we've got in the corner of the gallery that I think it all goes in. Doesn't have to be a literal bin, like a dust bin. But
Ain't going in anymore. They're going outside in self-storage. I've already put one in there, which you haven't heard yet. Something's been put in that self-storage.
Oh, self-storage.
Yeah. Didn't earn itself a grading, but Dave the Diver's not in risk of that, so yeah, we can go through the doors.
Yeah, so it's just a case then, I think, of where you put it. And I think it's probably between one of two, I think. And I think it's probably going to go in. I'm not going to say anything.
You say it, I'll be interested. I've written it down.
I think it's going to. The risk is that some of the sloppiness drags into silver, but I think you'll still put it into gold.
Silver.
Ah!
Nearly. Yeah. Some of the. It is minor things, but. Again, I knew this was a longer game as well. Like the whole Spirit Fair fiasco was our fault because it says it on the fucking store page how long it is, and we just ignored it. But again, I think there's an element of padding in this, and I don't think Spirit Fair even had padding. It was just too long.
Yeah, agreed.
I don't think it was artificially longer. It's just like, bloody hell, this is just the game. Whereas this is a little bit different, where I'm actually kind of fine with it being a bigger game. It's just that at times I was like, you stretch this out just a smidge, and they got the soft locks going on, which annoy me. The Ronnieisms I don't usually take too seriously, but might as well add that to the list of grievances. And yeah, but overall, an enjoyable experience. It's if people want a meaty sort of, it's not a palate cleanse. That's the thing. This is too long really to be considered that. But if you do just want to just dive into something quite literally different, then Dave the Diver is a really good shout. And like I said, it's pretty economical on price and probably lurking on a subscription service near you. So would recommend for those that have been interested in this. And the Godzilla DLC, a nice little addition as well. So Dave the Diver earned itself a silver.
Not bad, really.
Happy with that? You going to get it?
The length of it puts me off. I think that's a bit self-indulgent for what it is, would be my assessment.
Just got to look on how long to beat, because I think that's worth... Because I am slow at games. You got to remember that.
Thorough is how I would phrase it.
24 hours. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're not getting away from it being a 20-hour pluser. So, yeah, I get why people might be like, nah. But it's enjoyable. It's good. It's good like that. I know people that play at Stardew Valley for hundreds of hours. I mean, I could go back to this and play much more still, really. Like, there's definitely more for me to be getting on with, but at some point, I might have to move on. Like, you can collect, like, when you catch the fish, it creates like a card collection. So I know there's people out there doing all that stuff, and it's like, yeah, it has all that sort of stuff. If you're really going to go on a completionist run, there's a lot here. And if you enjoy the core elements, like 46 hours for completionist, that's a big boy, isn't it?
It's a lot for 16 quid, yeah.
It really is. I mean, to be honest, fair play. There's a lot here. It's not just chucked out the door, 5 hours and done. This is a proper, decent experience. It's got some depth to it.
A proper game.
Well, they all are proper. Well, I've played some stuff that's on the borderline, but yeah. Nothing really but positive for Dave's Diver. It deserves the accolades it's got. And if there's a second one, well, if the timing's right, I'll be there day one. If not, I'll be there shortly after. So I'll be interested to see what they get up to next. But Dave the Diver, silver. I think that'll do it for this episode. Idle Game Chat. Another one in the books as we fast. Well, actually, I don't know when this will go out, but 10-year anniversary at some point.
Cool.
And that could be the hard date retirement. Just go, that's it. Cut.
A full 10 years, nice and clean, done.
Walk away from it. But no, that's that. What have you been playing? I know you just saw you was going after for a bit, but
yeah. So I did that game. Oh, I can't bloody remember what it's called now. That climbing game.
Yeah, Jusant
done. Did that. I have started Beat Cop. So I think I'm about 5 or 6 days into that.
Is that a set? Is it tell you you've got 30 days or is it you just...
Yes.
Okay.
You've got X amount of days to do what you've got to do in it, which is interesting.
Interesting.
And it's, so the whole thing is timed. So you can't...
It's real time, isn't it?
Yeah, you can't get away from anything, and you do have to make some interesting decisions. I think that one's going to take a couple of gameplays, because I think the first gameplay, the playthrough, is really trying to get used to the dynamics. Like the dynamics.
I see what you mean. You're not going to get what you want done, basically, because
I don't think so.
You have to work out. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think there's an element of that, but that's an interesting game. And that's about it, really. I haven't really. What's that puzzler that I messaged you about that's appeared on Game Pass?
Puzzler?
Humanity.
Oh yeah. The little 3D lemmings.
Yeah. So I've done the first level on that as well, but I'm not sold by it. I have to be honest. I'm not sold by it. It hasn't grabbed me. No. So I haven't gone back to that for about a week and a half or so. But the first, I quite liked it to start off with, but I don't know. I've seen that lightsabers come along, so I'm hoping that comes along relatively soon to make it interesting. But yeah, I've got fingers in a couple of pies.
Well, if they get done, we'll speak about them. Or even if they don't get done, because it could be
Reason why.
there's a reason for that. Botchling bin can still be an episode in a way. Shouldn't be ruled out. But Biff's the botchling bin master, so it's hard to keep up with him.
Yes. Yeah, very true.
Oh, well. Well, there we go. Idle game chat done. Dave the Diver earns itself a nice silver, but nothing more for us to say other than thanks for your time and ta-da.
This was a Dimp Digital production.
Hello there, Adkins from Dimp Digital. This is my review for WWE 2K23. A strange game to review, as you can't really, well, you can complete it, but basically I feel like my time with the game is done, so I thought I'd write a review for it. I went through, what prompted is because I went through that showcase mode, and I'd say arguably that's probably the best mode of these WWE 2K games. It's almost like a story mode. You're going through a certain person's career, and it sort of melds real life footage and interviews, and it melds that into the gameplay. This time around, it was following the career of one John Cena. So you play through his sort of career in WWE when he began to some of his final matches, but just the way they sort of connect those videos and gameplay of some of his matches, it's quite well done this time around. Rather than playing than John Cena the whole way through, you're playing his opponents and him showing you sort of matches that he typically lost, but some of his best matches. Yeah, just the way it sort of melds in together, it's really cool. It's a great idea. I think they've been doing it for the last few years. This is the first one I've picked up since about 2014, I think, whenever Stone Cold was on the cover. But yeah, it was pretty cool. It's a fun way to do it. I think these simulation wrestling games can get pretty boring off the bat. They're quite fun just to pick up and play, but they don't tend to have longevity unless you get involved in some of their EA type modes where you're spending microtransactions and teams and that. But yeah, I played a lot, good sort of 10 hours just on the sort of exhibition modes, playing certain matches and changing belts and whatnot. So I did go through some of the the modes where you sort of build your own character and take them through. I think they call it like My Rise. There was a few different versions where you play like a male character called The Lock, and then there was a female character. I had a little bash on that, but they can be sort of overly drawn out and sort of bloat. It was just sort of filler, really. But yeah, I had a good play through that. But yeah, there's a lot of variety in this game. Different matches, quite a few sort of superstars, as they call them. I remember playing the old Tekken games, and something I miss from the old days is you would start off with like a small roster, and then the more you played the game, you'd get points, and then you could unlock characters. And they have that in this, like there's sort of legends that you can unlock and different variations of some wrestlers, and it gives you the ability to unlock them. So it was quite enjoyable playing that. That made me play the exhibition mode so I could unlock some more of these characters that I'd like to try. But yeah, it is WWE 2K. It's sort of been the same thing for a little while. But yeah, this was pretty enjoyable. Presentation-wise, it looks incredible these days. It really does. It's close to the simulation of watching the WWE, pay-per-view or a Raw or SmackDown. Yes, after playing the AEW game, I love the arcade aspect of that. But like I say, this is more simulation, so it's it's a bit different, but I thought I'd leave my review for this. And yeah, I enjoyed my time with it. I've been sniffing at the new one, but I probably won't get it straight away. But yeah, for wrestling fans, I'd say pick it up. I'll give this one a good, decent silver. Yeah, pretty box standard for a wrestling game. And that's my review. Ta-da!